Taking stock of what I have and what I haven't. What do I find? The things I've got will keep me satisfied. Checking up on what I have and what I haven't. What do I find? A healthy balance on the credit side. Got the sunshine, got the sky, so I think I'm a lucky guy. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Got no mansion, got no yacht, still I'm happy with what I've got. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Sunshine gives me a lovely day. Moonlight gives me the Milky Way. Got no checkbooks, got no banks, still I'd like to express my thanks. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. And with the sun in the morning and the moon in the evening, I'm alright. Sunshine gives me the lovely day. Moonlight gives me the Milky Way. Got no checkbooks, got no banks, still I'd like to express my thanks. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. And with the sun in the morning and the moon in the evening, I'm all right.
This is the Hour by Connie Simon. This is the hour. The time has come. Mindful of our responsibilities and as leaders of the faith and as guardians of the living tradition, we call upon the great cloud of witnesses, those who come before, those who are here now, and those who have yet to come. We seek their presence, love, support in this place at this hour. We kindle the flame to light their path and to call them near as we undertake this sacred work.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple of space, its shrine of good heart, its creed of truth, its bridge of all works of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere. Its temple of space, its shrine of good heart, its creed of truth, its bridge of all works of love.
Love is the spirit of this church,
and service is its law,
to dwell together in peace
to seek the truth in love.
and to help one another.
This is our great covenant.
Sing of the east, the realm of air, their gifts of sight and wisdom fair, dancing marsh breeze on this blessed morn, we celebrate the spring newly born. Sing of the south, where fire burns bright, their gifts of passion and ardent light, lengthening warm days on this blessed morn, we celebrate the spring newly born. Sing of the west, deep water clear, their gifts of health and love draw near, flowing with life on this blessed morn, we celebrate the spring newly born. Sing of the north and strength of earth, their gifts of life in joyous rebirth, springing up green on this blessed morn, we celebrate the spring newly born. Sing of the Spirit, source of all, giver of life, to you we call, moving in us on this blessed morn, we celebrate the spring newly born.
The story I have to share with you today is by Kristen Meyer, and it is called Life Itself. And it begins like this. Long ago, the land of the north, that was far north, was filled with wise old trees. The trees stood mighty and tall, and their wide leaves stayed green all year long. Every morning, life itself, a fiery orb, rose in the sky. Life itself smiled upon the trees, giving them warmth and light. And the trees smiled upon the humans, giving them wood and fruit. And the humans, well, they smiled upon each other, sharing what they had. But one day, life itself was called to the lands of the south, for it was needed there. And before it left, it spoke, and it said, "Do not fret. My friend, darkness, will watch over you while I am gone. Remember, life itself returns. Life itself always returns." And with that, life itself turned and moved toward the south. Darkness moved in just as it had promised. And though the air got colder, the humans did not worry, at least not at first. But one being who lived among the humans was fear. Fear had always been present, whispering, "Be careful of the fire, lest you get burned. Don't let your children stray too far." But now that life itself moved farther south, and darkness was watching the humans more often, fear began to speak more plainly. "Beware of your neighbor. Watch out for the forest creatures." And the humans began to listen and worry. Have you ever felt worried? "Where is life itself?" they cried. "Why did it leave us alone?" And the trees, seeing their worry, called out, "Life itself returns. Life itself always returns. You must trust." The trees saw that the humans were still afraid, so they called out to darkness. And as darkness moved among them, their leaves of green turned to yellow, orange, and red. And surrounded by color, the humans forgot their worries and smiled upon one another again. Fear, however, continued to speak, and it said, "It's getting colder. Will there be enough firewood? Surely you will freeze while your neighbor stays warm and toasty." And the humans began to worry again. They began to cut down branch after branch, and then even whole trees. And the trees cried out, "Wait! You need only ask and we will cover you." The trees called to darkness again. As darkness moved among their branches, their leaves began to fall. A warm blanket of yellow, orange, and red covered the ground as far as the eye could see. And the trees spoke once again. "Life itself returns. Life itself always returns. You must trust." And the humans, toasty and warm, smiled upon one another again. But fear continued to speak louder and louder. What do you think fear said this time? "There is not enough fruit for everyone. Take what your family needs before others will." And so soon, human began to fear human. They started to fight over the fruit, taking more than they needed, more than they even wanted, until others had none. And the trees, well, they looked down upon the chaos and the hatred, and they could not smile. They could only weep. And big, wet tears rolled down their bare branches. And in the cold air of darkness, those tears froze into tiny needles of ice. And thousands of little icicles rang out in the wind of darkness, filling the cold air with sound. Can you hear them? Far away, life itself heard the tinkling of icicles and knew the trees had been weeping. And life itself turned toward the north and reached out. And warmth and love filled those trees, melting thousands of icicles and leaving in their place lush green needles of life. And the humans stretched out their hands, and as they touched the green needles, they remembered the promise. Do you remember what it was? Life itself returns. life itself always returns. Once again, life itself smiled upon the trees, giving them warmth and light. The trees smiled upon the humans, giving them wood and fruit. And the humans smiled upon each other, sharing what they had. And you might be wondering about fear. Fear? Fear was kept to a whisper, as it should be.
From the east comes the sun, bringing a new and unspoiled day.
It has already circled the earth and looked upon distant lands and faraway peoples.
It has passed over mountain ranges and the waters of the seven seas.
It has shone upon laborers in the fields, into the windows of homes and shops and factories.
It has beheld proud cities with gleaming towers, and also the hovels of the poor.
It has been witness to both good and evil, the works of honest men and women, and the conspiracy of knaves.
It has seen marching armies, bomb-blasted villages, and the destruction that wasteth at noonday.
Now, unsullied from its tireless journey, it comes to us, messenger of the morning, harbinger of a new day.
Please join us in singing hymn number 1066. This hymn is interesting in that the words are based on writings of St. Francis of Assisi, but the tune is a Scottish tune, a Scottish folk tune, and the name of it is Ye Banks and Braes.
I'd like to take this moment to share with you some joys and concerns. Carolyn Rogers and Paul Davis are happy to report that their son John's heart cath procedure showed that everything looked great. And there's still some quirks about his heart rate to evaluate, but the equipment is working just fine. What a relief. We're so grateful for all that Carolyn and Paul have done to enliven our music program as well. So we're so happy to hear this good news for the whole family. We're also working together with the Foothills Unitarian Universalist Fellowship to support Kathy Paisley, a longtime member of this church who joined the Foothills Fellowship, as she's undergoing chemotherapy. So look on the church email listserv or look out for the church newsletter this week, and you can find out how to sign up for the meal train to be able to provide meals during this time when she's undergoing treatment. Let us enter into a time of meditation and prayer together.
Good morning. I invite you into a time of prayer or silent reflection, to be calm in the midst of the noise of the world and our over-busy lives. As you settle into a comfortable position, quiet your mind and focus on your breath. Find some center, some still point of perspective and peace. Spirit of life, God of sunrise and surprises, may we sense your presence in the energy and power and color of early spring. We are grateful for the gift of life itself, mindful that to respect life means both to celebrate what life is and to insist on what it can become. On this first Sunday of spring, we rejoice in the spirit of life around us, the wind in our faces and breath in our lungs, the dormant daffodils bursting forth in spring. On this first Sunday of spring, we remember we are called to appreciate and protect the whole of creation, always cherishing, nurturing, and renewing the earth. We remember we are called to be in relationship, living and working with one another, supporting and healing one another. We remember we are called into a community, working for the common good of all, making choices that bring hope, justice, and freedom to our world. Let us enter into the quiet. Spirit of life, as we enter this season of transformation, may we find ways to transform ourselves and the world, and may we respond boldly. This is our prayer. May it be so.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today at TVUUC. Today is a Share the Plate Sunday. What that means is that any contribution that comes in today will be split between our Share the Plate organization and the General Operating Fund of TVUUC, unless it is marked as a pledge. The Share the Plate organization for today is the Beardsley Community Farm. You'll be seeing a video and learning more about them in a few minutes. But let me just say the way that you can give, or you can go to tvuuc.org/give, or you can text give to the number 73256, type in TVUUC, and the amount that you would like to give. Once again, thank you for joining us and have a great morning.
Beardsley Farm is Knoxville's oldest urban demonstration farm. So we donate about 10,000 pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables to hunger relief organizations in Knoxville every year. We do that with the help of about 2,000 volunteers who come to the farm and help us with weeding, harvesting, planting, kind of whatever needs doing. We're a working farm here just outside of downtown Knoxville. I act as the outreach coordinator, so I manage all of our social media. I do a lot of the volunteer coordination and any, marketing materials and things that we need for the farm. Is a lot of what I do on an individual basis.
I am the education coordinator. So basically what I do is when there's kids that come to the farm, or as far as going to Head Starts, classrooms, I do a lot of that stuff as well. So just making sure that we're active in the community, going to after school programs, different things like that. So a food desert is any area where they're not able to get fruits and vegetables within 1 mile. Prior to Food City being here, this area, the Mechanicsville area, was a food desert.
So Beardsley hosts a community work day, usually once a month on a Saturday, sometimes twice a month if we've got a lot going on in late spring, early summer, of course. So we do that as a way, of course, one, just for convenience for folks' schedules who can't necessarily come during the week, during workday hours, so then they can still get out to the farm on the weekend. But then it's also nice because it allows groups from UT, Pellissippi, Johnson, workplaces and things to come, and we can have a lot of people on the farm and get big projects done. So when we have a big field in Malcolm Martin Park that's about 1/3 of an acre that every spring we have to lay down irrigation tape and put on landscape fabric. There's only 7 of us that work at the farm full-time, and that is not something that 7 of us can feasibly do. So we love having big groups come for big projects like that. So when folks come for the community work day, we, of course, because the second part of our mission is education. And so, of course, we're giving folks tours, telling them about what they do, about what we do, if they haven't been to the farm before. And of course, that's not only just, to tell them, but also so they get a more tangible idea of why they're at the work day. Why are they volunteering their time and giving back?
So my target audience for community outreach is people who don't already know about community gardening and having things locally sourced and that type of thing, because Beardsley does get a lot of people who are already interested, and that's great. But my part would be more so expanding and making sure more people are becoming more and more aware of where their food comes from and nutrition and how they can grow their own food.
My name's Holly Ross. I heard about it through my boyfriend. He had to do some community service a few years ago, and Beardsley Farm was on the list, and he picked it, and then he told me about it, and it was right before we had moved away for a couple of years, and then right when I knew we were coming back, this was something I wanted to be involved in, and just a way to donate some of my free time and help others and do some community work. And it was nice to just literally get my hands in the dirt and learn a few things, and kind of find out what all they do here and the other people they're partnered with. Yeah, we got a lot done, and I definitely want to come back and do it again. It was easy.
So I'm Ansley Parker, and I'm here with Knox County Youth Health Board. We were primarily working on watering and gardening around the kale and some other various plants. I really like Beardsley just because of, I guess, what they give to you. I like that it connects with other places in the community, whether it be mobile meals or different women's shelters and things like that. I like that the food is used for a good cause. It gives volunteers a great way to connect with each other through serving, and then also just impacting the people that need food in our community.
they can come back in June or something and see the things that they planted then growing, and then they can see the impact that they're having on the community. They can be like, okay, in March I planted this, and now like I can see it growing, and now I know that it's going to help feed someone who doesn't have that access to fresh fruits and vegetables that I might get.
I believe in the sun. I believe in the sun. Even when it's not shining. I believe in love. I believe in love. Even when I can't feel it. I believe in God. I believe in God. Even when God is silent.
The words to that poem were found written on the wall of a cellar in Cologne, where Jews were hiding from Nazi forces, trying to protect their families and their children from genocide and the Holocaust. Sitting in that dark, dank cellar, the poet wrote, "I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining." The poet hiding in that cellar knew that they were in danger of betrayal. friends and neighbors, co-workers. There was no one that person could trust. Over 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust without anyone in their local communities coming to their rescue. And yet the poet wrote, "I believe in love even when I can't feel it." Or as another translation puts it, "I believe in love even when it's not apparent." It's not hard to imagine that this poet felt not only abandoned by friends and not only abandoned by neighbors, but abandoned by God. Everything in their lives was falling apart. Everything they had worked for over many years was disintegrating before their eyes. Friendships, everything was unraveling. Everything was falling apart. Human beings who had once seemed as gentle as lambs now appeared ravenous as wolves. There's a story about a concentration camp in Nazi Germany where 3 rabbis decided to put God on trial for this abandonment. They put God on trial and they found God guilty as charged. But afterwards, they prayed together. Similarly, this poet wrote, "I believe in God, even when God is silent."
In the summer before the pandemic, I went to a conference sponsored by the Association of Unitarian Universalist Music Ministries, and that's where I first heard the words to this poem that was written during the Holocaust, set to music by the composer Mark Miller. The theme of the conference was the 8th principle that we are considering as a congregation. The 7 principles of Unitarian Universalism is we covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, the goal of acceptance of one another and encouragement of spiritual growth, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the rights of conscience and the use of the democratic process in our congregations and in the world, and the goal of a world community with liberty and justice for all, and respect for the interdependent web of existence of which we are part. And so we are considering as a congregation, and also the larger movement is considering the adoption of an 8th principle. This 8th principle would be, we would affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. In order to implement this idea at this music conference, the leaders had decided to highlight works written by people of color. The idea is that in a majority white culture, it's easy for whites to dominate without even trying, and it takes a proactive effort to lift up the work of people of color. Too often, voices of minorities go unheard, whether spoken or sung. So if we are to accountably dismantle racism, we need to be proactive about how we do it, and this was a proactive effort to do that. And it was a very powerful experience. I enjoyed meeting Mark Miller, and I enjoyed singing in the choirs that he led. He led mass choirs where we sang this song and many other songs that he wrote. Now, Mark Miller was there at the conference with us, and he's just a wonderful human being, and I loved his music. I think his music is sort of like the television show This Is Us. Every single one makes me cry. Every single one makes me cry. Every single time. Now, Mark Miller is not only a great composer, he's a great choir leader, he's a great human being. And he's committed to breaking down the dividing walls of hostility and fear in our culture, working to dismantle racism in our congregations, in our larger world. And there's something powerful about music. I think music helps us have these conversations about dismantling racism in a more productive way than sometimes we are able to as a denomination. I was grateful, and I was grateful for this very proactive effort to lift up a voice that had not been heard before. There are too many songs and too many poems and too many ideas and too many people hiding in the dark basements of the world. And it's time for us to accountably dismantle racism so that everyone can step out of the darkness into the light of the sun. The book of Hebrews tells us that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. Now, my son and my daughter-in-law and my grandchildren live in Colorado, where there is 2 feet of snow on the ground right now. And just as it is hard to believe in the sun when it's not shining, it is very hard to believe it is springtime when there is 2 feet of snow on the ground. And yet, it's springtime. Yesterday was the Spring Equinox. And so springtime is here, even if we live somewhere where we cannot see it. In the Northern Hemisphere, the Spring Equinox is a time of balance. After the winter where we had those long dark nights and those short days of light, we're entering into a time, the Spring Equinox is when the time of light and the time of darkness are equal to each other. Day and night are equal length with each other. Now, ancient religions went to a great deal of trouble to understand the universe and a great deal of trouble to understand the earth's relationship to the sun. Just look at the pyramids of Egypt or the pyramids of the Mayan or Aztec culture, or think about the standing stones of Karnak, Avesbury, and Stonehenge. That was a lot of trouble to move all those stones to be in an understanding or right relationship with the cosmos. Now, these early efforts at science helped ancients to understand the cycles of the seasons and the cycles of light and darkness. Being able to predict the time of the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox gave the universe more predictability, more dependability, more trustworthiness, and it allowed the ancients to move from feelings of fear toward feelings of faith. Ancient Egyptians worshiped the sun, and this worship of the sun and the sky led to a larger thought of God, because some gods in the ancient world were tribal gods, no bigger than the tribe, or some gods, even today, are the gods of nationalism and warfare. And yet, the sun shines on us all. The sun's light crosses over every boundary and every border and every border wall. We may not get along with the tribe on the other side of the hill, but the sunlight shines on us all. We may not get along with the nation that's on the other side of the border, but the sun's light will shine and illuminate all of our lives. And so this idea of worshiping the sun led to a larger thought of God. So every one of us is challenged to step out of the cellar into the light of the sun. The poet Rumi once wrote a poem along these lines called Ruby Sunrise, about a red ruby. He wrote, "I'm like a ruby held up to the sunrise. Is it still a stone or a world made of redness? It has no resistance to sunlight. This is how Halaj said, 'I am God,' and told the truth. The ruby and the sunrise are one." So when the mystics of all faiths hear that poem, I believe in the sun, I believe in love, I believe in God, they are informed by the insight that the sun and love and God are one. So what does this sense of oneness mean? Well, this sense of oneness means we are all connected. We are stronger together. We are love's hands in the world. We are called to create justice. We are responsible for one another and the earth. It's just like the yard sign from our church says. You can come to the church today and pick up your own yard sign today as a free gift, as a reminder that we're all connected, as a reminder of our oneness. Now, one of my favorite Unitarians was the Unitarian minister turned lecturer Ralph Waldo Emerson, who once wrote, "That only which we have within can we see without. If we meet no gods, it's because we harbor none." If we have grandeur in ourselves, then we will see grandeur in every person we meet, of whatever station they may be. If we have grandeur in ourselves, then we will see grandeur in all of creation. Now, we do not know who wrote the poem, "I Believe in the Sun." And chances are this person died in the Holocaust, in a concentration camp. And it's possible that the horrible way that they died may mean that their words cannot bring us hope. It may be the terrible way that they died fills us with despair. And if we look around the world at all the horrible things that are happening, at all the violence, at all the hatred, at all the humanity, we might be tempted to give up all hope. And yet, we might still choose to believe. Many years ago, I saw an otherwise forgettable film called Secondhand Lions. And there is a wonderful scene in it where the elder character, Hub, speaks to a young boy named Walter and gives him a wonderful piece of advice, which I offer for you right now. He says, "Sometimes the things that may or may not be true are the things we need to believe in the most. That people are basically good, that honor and courage and virtue mean everything, that money and power mean nothing, that good always triumphs over evil, that true love never dies. Doesn't matter if it's true or not. These are the things we should believe in because these are the things worth believing in." Of course, sometimes what we believe in is true. When I'm out in the community, I wear a face mask in this time of pandemic, and it's because I believe in science. I believe in science even if the governor will not do a statewide mask mandate. I believe in science even if the county government is doing everything in their power to undermine the work of the Board of Health. I believe in science even if I go places and other people aren't wearing their mask. I still believe. Of course, the story I told earlier, set in the cellar, about the poem, that is the oldest version of the story. It is the version of the story closest to that historic moment. There are other versions of the story online. It's become kind of the seed of a historic event has become myth and legend. Sometimes the story is set in the cellar, and sometimes the story is set in a concentration camp, and sometimes it's set in Cologne, Germany, and sometimes it's set somewhere else. But it's become legend as well as fact. But as the mystics tell us, a story does not have to be completely, literally true in order to have truth in it. So let me end by saying, I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining. I believe in love, even when I can't feel it. I believe in God, even when God is silent. And I believe in the truth of this story, even if I can't prove it.
I believe in the sun. I believe in the sun, even when it's not shining. I believe in the sun. I believe in the sun, even when I believe in God. I believe in God. Even when God is silent.
A new song, a new harmony by Richard S. Gilbert. By our presence here with one another, hearing harmony that is the music of the spheres, may some harshness and discord of our human lives be transmuted into music. A new song in our hearts may there be, and a new harmony in our beings, so that we return to our several duties with fresh courage and with eagerness and with rejoicing. Amen.
Let people living in all lands declare that fear and hate are gone. Rise above differences and stand in love and understanding one.
As you go out into the world, don't forget to wear your face mask. Let everyone know that you believe in science, that you believe in love, that you believe in compassion. Try to stay connected this week. Join us for our coffee hour after the service, or come to one of our online events, the Minister Check-ins or Heart Circle or some other online event this week. Look at the newsletter to find out about more opportunities. Enjoy this season of spring. Go in peace.
Sing